Okay, hi class. I wanted to go over a couple quick things in Microsoft Excel. I know there's a lot of videos to watch this week, and it's really hard to make an Excel class a 1 week class in a 5 week course and have students get some of the basics and the cursory information out of Excel that they need to. But I wanted to address one point. You're probably not going to be building a lot of spreadsheets in the future in your particular degree programs. At the same time, you probably will be doing various types of data entry into already created spreadsheets. Someone's taken the time to create it. You might have to modify it. You may have to manipulate it. You may even have to change it. You maybe have some ideas on how to make it better. Um, there's a few things that I wanted to point out that I think, especially the beginners in Excel, will kind of fall into this trap. Let's say we have some numbers here. I'm just going to make up some numbers like 10, 9. Doesn't really matter. I'll just throw whatever numbers in here and do some basic calculations. So here's our numbers and we want to add them up. Well, the best way to do this, and I'll show you, watch, equals sum, parentheses, and just drag the whole thing and hit enter, and you get the total, 534. One of the things that people do when they first start out, they'll do one of these. This works, but watch what happens. I can go equals, and I can cherry pick, and I can hit a plus, and I can cherry pick, and I can plus, cherry pick. I can go right down the line. Well, this is going to result in the same exact answer of 534, except it takes a really long time to build. It'll work. It'll work, no problem. There. Those numbers are the same. Works perfectly, right? And I can insert a space here, and it still holds true because those values are there. What happens is, like, let's say you needed to add some more values to this, and I say I'm going to add 500. Let's say that's what it is. Look at that. That one jumps. This one doesn't. So every time you change it, you're going to have to go back in here and modify that. Because that cell range adjusts. Here's another example. Let's say that these are duplicates. Actually, let's just make them duplicates. They weren't supposed to be there. So now we're at 568 and 568. If I want to remove the duplicate, I can right click on the row and I can delete. And immediately I've got a problem with this. You're going, and it shows you that because we deleted that row, we got rid of it. So now we have to come back in here and adjust this every time and get rid of that to get our formula to work out again. That's where these cell ranges are exceptional versus cherry picking these. So I can delete these. Let's say I needed 10 more rows to work with. I can insert a block in here. I can enter in my new things. Doesn't really matter. Those are going to be there, and now I can go in and I can go to data. I can sort that up and down, left and right, and I don't have to keep monkeying with the original because this will expand and contract with it. So if you kind of do it from the center, if you always expand and contract somebody else's formulas, if they're range formulas, you can do that. If you run into situations like this where someone's cherry picked a bunch of information to add up, I would convert that. I would say equals sum bracket and just do that. And now if I need to add bunch of rows to enter more information, I can do that, and there it goes. So it's really important to get in the habit of doing that. What else did I want to show you real quick? Like, you'll see it comes in for a bigger spreadsheet, more complex spreadsheet like this, where there's points and stuff like that, and you get over here and you start seeing some of these types of formulas, and you really don't want to screw these formulas up because they take a little while to get going. And here you can see, if you ever get this type of a thing, that means that there's a division error. It's dividing by 0, and because there's no information in here, as soon as I enter 100, that goes away. It's only there temporarily until I start entering some information, because there's some calculations based on that. One of the things that I do like to do, and this is probably unimportant for you guys, but I'll show you. So you have that, and it looks like there's a problem, but there's not a problem. So I like to wrap a lot of formulas with things like, if is error in, I'm going to highlight and copy this because I'm going to duplicate it in this. I'm going to close it, put a comma. So if there's an error in this average, then the double quotes means return nothing. Otherwise, do the same thing. And I have an extra thing. And it's going to say blah blah blah. It's looking for another apostrophe. And oh, I took that out. There. That's what it was. That apostrophe. And then it goes away. So it looks like, there's this formula there, but it's kind of obscured. It's kind of hidden until then. Because someone looks at that, they think that the spreadsheet is jacked up until until you start entering information in, so you can change stuff. So it's 100%. Oh, I put in 50%. 100% of 50 points. That's what I was trying to achieve. So, just to give you an idea of a couple of the things that you can do with Excel that maybe weren't covered in some of those other things. I think it's very important that you kind of expand and contract your selections and then resort it afterward, so that you can maintain them. And you'll see that in here too. So you don't want to screw those up, but you want to condense this collection down. I can delete this, and I'm not going to mess up anything. I could bring this all the way down, and I'm not going to mess it up. Now if I add it back, I'm going to insert from the center. But we did lose one here. That way we can just drag down, because that formula is built into that number of counts, and when we deleted it, it went away. So when we added it, it went away. There's blanks, so we can just quick drag that, and it updates them. That's just a nifty little way to do that. One final thing I wanted to show you. Let me go back to the other document, highlight that whole thing, and I'm going to just get rid of it. The whole 1900 to 1901, if I want to make the years, it will add those. Same with January. You can drag that. It doesn't really matter which way you drag it. You don't have to enter this information. You can, as long as you grab that little part there, you can drag those things. So another thing is like week 0, 1. If I drag just week 0, 1, look at that. It automatically assumes the increasing it without typing it. Week 0, 1, and sometimes it depends on your version. Week 0, 2, sometimes you have to grab 2 in order for it to work, because sometimes it just won't catch it. 1. Now if I do a 1 here, 1 should drag over. But if I change this to a 2, then highlight both and grab this little corner, now it will do the accounting up, and there's no formulas in it, it's just static numbers. The other way is, let's say we've got 1, we could say equals this plus 1. If we want to do it mathematically so that there's always a plus 1, we could start this at 0 and all those numbers will change. You could start it at 99. Doesn't matter. So there's a lot of ways you can do these increments. Let's say this is the one that you wanted, and now you don't want these to be formulas anymore. You want this is your static information. Sometimes you just use a formula to establish the values. So then you'd highlight that, because they're all formulas right now, and if I change this to 20, it's going to increase. So I want to lock those in and not allow them to change. If I highlight it, right click, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to click back on the very first cell, right click again. You get these options. You got to pay attention to these. There's lots of different pasting options in Word and Excel. One of them is values. Now when I paste it, it converted all those formulas into values, and it locks them down so that now if I change this to 99, these aren't going to change anymore. There are times when that's really important to be able to convert the calculation back to a value. So you're going to be pasting as values, but one of the most important things that you're going to be doing is probably like these dragging options, and these increments. Don't be typing this stuff. This stuff can be done in basically lightning speed. I think that's about all. If you want to rename a tab, you just right click on the worksheet, and you can say whatever, test. You can add a new sheet, and you can rename that to test 2. You can move these around. Doesn't matter. You can, flip them around whatever order makes sense to you to do that. Other than that, Excel can also do formulas where you have 100 here, 100 here, equals sum, to get that. So you have equal sum of these two to get to 200. You can also equals 100 plus 100. Not often that you want to use static numbers, you want to use cell references, because then you can change this to 150, and that changes with it. There's kind of a neat little trick too. I'm just going to drag this down. If I want to know the sum of this without actually putting in equals sum, so it's 2700, right? If I highlight something, this is one of the other nifty little tricks in here. Over here you're going to get, down in the lower right, you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to tell you the count, it's going to tell you the average just by highlighting it. You're not doing anything, and it's going to tell you the sum. Sometimes you don't want to enter in anything. If you right click this, you can get, well, this is a little bit different than the version I'm used to, but you could say you want the minimum and the maximum will be the same. I'm trying to see. They put the instant calculations. So if you want to do this, you could just choose any one of them and it'll update down here right away the sum of the cells. If you do control selections, you can cherry pick non-adjacent cells or non-consecutive cells. So I can go around and just hold control, and that's sum 1500. It tells you the average. It does a bunch of that stuff for you right away. A lot of nifty little tricks. There's so much to Excel, it's hard to really focus on what you may be using in the future. So there's kind of it's more of a broad brushstroke, and a lot of it's pretty rudimentary, and we didn't even get into charting. We didn't get into any of that. It becomes challenging to break down what is necessary to teach students. And if there are things that you want to learn, I'm happy to have a lesson on those. But